Hi, I'm Joe and I am doing the Be a Better Human tag. This was created by Jen Campbell. I will link down to her channel down below. Jen had a bad week with people commenting on her hands, and she explains it all much better than I could, so definitely check out her video down below. I was tagged by both Lila Wood and Dinosaur in the Library, and I will link to both of them down below. So what you're supposed to do for this video is show books you have read which promote diversity, understanding, or have challenged the way you think about the world. And I have stacks of books all around me, so I'm going to try to go through them quickly and not really talk too much about them. I've sort of divided them into groups, but I recommend these. I will tell you if I haven't read them. Most of them I have read. The first group I am going to do, this is a stack of books about women. Very strong women, and I highly recommend these books. First I have Christy. Everyone knows about Christy. It's not considered a biography, but it's based on true events. Gloria Naylor's The Women of Brewster Place. I have not read this, but this is the following of 7 different women in a bleak inner city sanctuary into a powerful moving portrait of the strength, struggles, and hopes of black women in today's America. Orphan Train. The main characters in this book are both women, but mostly this orphan train thing that happened. I guess maybe this should be in my sort of humanities pile. But this happened up until the Great Depression. Orphans were put on trains on the East Coast and driven out west and basically handed out willy-nilly to whoever wanted them. And they were basically seen as free labor. It's tragic, and it's a story I think that more people need to know about. The Color Purple by Alice Walker. This is full of strong women. The women in this book, they're all absolutely amazing. Oh Pioneers by Willa, Cather. This is about a young woman that is put in charge of her family farm in the Nebraska prairie, and how she deals with her brothers who feel that they should have been put in charge simply because they were men. Jeanette Wall's Half Broken Horses. I haven't read this, but I read The Glass Castle by her, and that was a great book. It's her memoir of growing up in a very poor, poverty-stricken area. There's alcohol and not great things that happen. This is the story she wrote about her grandma, who apparently was quite a feminist back in her day and fought against prejudice of all kinds, against women, Native Americans, and anyone else who didn't fit the mold. The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. This is another story about incredibly strong women. They are treated as property. Girl children are worthless and have no say. I can't imagine that. The resilience of these women in this book is amazing. Michelle T. How to Grow Up, a memoir. This, it just came out this year. This is an advanced reader's copy that I won, and you just need to read this book. It says, at once heartwarming and darkly comic, How to Grow Up proves that the road less traveled may be a difficult one, but if you embrace life's uncertainty and dust yourself off after every screw up, slowly but surely, you just might make it to adulthood. Wild by Cheryl Strayed. Now I have some that are about poverty. I have nickeled and dimed on not getting by in America. I haven't read this one yet. John Steinbeck, The Grapes of Wrath, about poverty. And Voices from the Hills. These are selected readings of Southern Appalachia. I live at the very end of the northern part of Appalachia, and it's definitely its own place. I know what to categorize this little pile as. I guess it's focusing on human nature. This book was absolutely amazing. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. The thing that this one man does for another man, it makes you cry and think, oh my gosh, why aren't there more people like him? Selfless and heroic and just amazing. Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. I can't talk enough about this book. This is about censorship and what you would do to fight for your right to continue making your own choices on what you read or what you watch on TV and things like that. Lord of the Flies by William Golding. The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. This is about a black woman that had some sort of rare genetic condition or disease, and unbeknownst to her or her family, these doctors took some of her cells and they used it for experimenting and furthering medical sciences type stuff, and greatly profited from this poor woman. And as nature made him, the boy who was raised as a girl. This is absolutely tragic. You want to just beat this doctor. It's awful, and this book, especially sort of in light of what is happening a lot today, especially with the Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner type thing, this book, people are inherently what they are. I'm not getting into all of the other stuff, but you are what you are. You don't get to choose. Next, I have a pile on race issues. First, To Kill a Mockingbird, because obviously. Mr. and Mrs. Prince. It says that this is the true story of a remarkable pre-Civil War African-American family, as well as the challenges that faced African-Americans who lived in the North versus the slaves who lived in the South. This unravels the most complete history of a pre-Civil War black family known to exist. Mr. and Mrs. Prince were both free blacks, and they owned property, and they were pursuing the American dream. This story is fascinating and heartbreaking, the things that they went through just because of the color of their skin. And following this, to read The Known World by Edward P. Jones. I talked about this in January. I will link to my book talk down below. This is about free slaves and black slave owners. Things that I never thought about. I never thought about a freed slave turning around and owning slaves, or also what happened, how free black people were treated. They simply had a piece of paper saying that they were free, and a piece of paper is easily destroyed. This made me think about a lot of stuff, and these two books are just brilliant, and I don't understand why more people haven't read them or aren't talking about them. This is a Pulitzer Prize winner. This one is not, and it's amazing. How an extraordinary 18th century family moved out of slavery and into legend. It's by Gretchen Holbrook Gerzina. Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe, because everyone should read this, and everyone should also read Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. This pile deals with race issues and a lot of first generation immigrating to the United States, things that I never thought about that this first generation would have to deal with. First is Unaccustomed Earth by Jhumpa Lahiri. China Dolls by Lisa C. I talked about this, and I will link to that down below. This is a collection of short stories by Sandra Cisneros, The House on Mango Street. I highly recommend this. This was brilliant, and it is a very nice short read, short stories. And The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. This deals with both not belonging on an Indian reservation, but also not belonging in like the white man's world, and a lot of poverty. There's so much poverty. It's heartbreaking. But I really feel for these people that feel like they do not belong anywhere. Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, a novel by Mark Haddon. I haven't read this, but I believe it deals with autism. And Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I know this is fiction. This, though, one of the main characters is a quadriplegic, and it made me think about things that a quadriplegic would have to deal with, especially he had an accident and he became a quadriplegic. He wasn't born that way, so he knew what it was like to have fully functioning limbs and to do all this stuff, and then to have that so quickly and brutally taken away from him. It was a moving story, and I cannot wait to read Me After You. Mental illness. Well, I think this is more drug addiction. Go ask Alice. It is not a true story or a real diary, and that's how it became notorious, because it says it was published, a real diary by Anonymous. Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, An Appointment in Samara by John O'Hara. These both deal with mental illnesses. And I have a pile of sort of war-related books. Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. Kurt Vonnegut always wanted to write a book about his experience that happened to him in the bombing of Dresden. He was there and he knew what happened, but he also had to deal with writing it because he was not an actual eyewitness. He was underground, which is why he survived. But this is a fictional story with things that actually happened in it and characters that are based on real people. It's a moving book. It's confusing at first read because Billy Pilgrim is unstuck in time. He doesn't know when he wakes up. He doesn't know where he's going to be, if he's going to be in present time, past time, if he's going to be in Dresden, where he will be. And I think that just added to the story, to the confusion, to sort of post-traumatic stress. And I thought this was just a great story. Tim O'Brien, The Things They Carried. I haven't read this, but this is about the Vietnam War, and they carried malaria tablets, love letters, 28-pound mine detectors, dope, illustrated Bibles, and each other. I'm putting off reading this because I love war stories, but I also have such a terrible time getting through them because I personify the people just way too much. I had uncles in Vietnam, I had grandpa in World War II, and my brother has been in Iraq twice. So I have sort of a love-hate relationship with war stories. Which brings me to Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand. This is a World War II story of survival, resilience, and redemption. I would never watch this movie, but this book was absolutely brilliant. The Reader by Bernard Schlink. This book, you have to get over the fact that this is a 30-something-year-old woman sleeping with a teenage boy, first of all, because that's really gross. So don't think about that too much. She was a Nazi guard, and she was guarding women that were being moved from one concentration camp to another, and something terrible happened. And the main character, once you realize exactly what has happened to her and the thing that happened while she was standing watch, you understand her more, and it gave me a greater understanding of where she was coming from. There are a lot of World War II stories that deal with after the fact, you know, the concentration camp survivors and everything, but something I feel that either I just haven't come across them or it's just not too widely spoken of are the generation of people that were the concentration camp guards. They didn't exactly have a choice too much in doing what they were doing, and then their children and everyone, their neighbors, everyone knew what they did after the war. Everyone knew, well, you know, they did these terrible things to these people, and it ruined also their lives. And it's sort of a different perspective that I mean, you don't agree with what happened, but you sort of have an understanding. It's almost brings me back to Fahrenheit 451 with what would you do? I mean, that's burning books. This is burning lives, but it still has parallels, and I've gone on too long about that book. Anne Frank, Diary of a Young Girl. Everyone has to read that book. And this is A Train in Winter. I haven't read it. It's 100 Notable Books from the New York Times Book Review 2011. It is an extraordinary story of women, friendship, and resistance in occupied France. This is a group of women. They banded together. They were strangers, and they helped smuggle babies out of concentration camps and did all sorts of other things like that. Their lives were threatened. Their families were put in danger, but they did it anyway. Definitely check out Jen Campbell's original tag video and her list of books. And if you do this tag, let me know down below so I can check out your video. I will talk to you later. Bye.